Hi friends, today we are going to see the past year NEET questions for the chapter Environmental Issues, and today in this video we will cover part 3. So earlier we have completed two parts of the same chapter. Kindly have a go through. Now let's start with the first question, which was asked in the year 2011. Eutrophication is often seen in dash. What do you mean by eutrophication? What are the reasons why do we get eutrophication? See, a eutrophication usually is often seen in freshwater lakes, because not in oceans, deserts or mountains. It's mostly associated with water. We all know whenever we talk about river or whenever we talk about lake, we also have aquatic organisms which are surviving in water, and they all take up the oxygen which is in the dissolved form, which is present in the water, and therefore it is understood that these organisms have an access with the top layer, that is the dissolved oxygen, which is required for their survival. Now when it comes to this eutrophication, what happens exactly here is, sometimes there are instances where these plants, unnecessary plants grow on the water surface, which once again they start using up the oxygen, and once they start using up the oxygen, the organisms which are living underneath will not get the oxygen. So once again it becomes a threat. Sometimes there are chances for the waste, the industrial waste, the agricultural waste, the fertilizers, all that we use in excess gets dumped into the... So once again, when these fertilizers and all these waste, when they are dumped again in the water, all that will again will cause a threat to the organisms which are surviving under the water, because you know the decomposition process takes place even when it is in water, right? So the microorganisms which help in this decomposition process, once again they start using up the oxygen which is there in the dissolved form in the water. So eutrophication, if you see, it is often seen in freshwater lakes. Therefore the right answer to this question is option B. Next question here, biochemical oxygen demand, that is BOD in river. Okay, when will it, what is it actually applicable to? So we all know demand means there is a longing, that is the meaning, right? There's a longing for the content of oxygen. So we have to analyze the statements here. It has no relationship with concentration of oxygen in water. Okay, gives a measure of salmonella in water wrong, increases when sewage gets mixed with river water. That is applicable because as the waste that in the water is increasing, the demand for the oxygen will also increase side by side, because as I told in the earlier question, even for decomposition process, the microorganisms involved in that process require oxygen for that process. So what happens? They will use up the oxygen that is there in the water, and they will become a threat to the organisms that are surviving under the water. Okay, therefore the answer is option C. It is used in water quality management and assessment of ecology. So this demand actually tells you how much the water is polluted. Okay, next question here, DDT residues are rapidly passed through food chain causing biomagnification because DDT is dash. Okay, what is the full form of DDT that I told you in the earlier part? It is diphenyl trichloroethane, right? Now if you look at this, these residues are rapidly passed through the food chain causing biomagnification because it is liposoluble. Okay, the other names for magnification is bioamplification, biological magnification. So what is that actually? It is the increase of the substance, that is the concentration of the substance such as pesticide DDT that occurs in the food chain as a consequence of, so you have the reasons here. One is persistence, food chain energetics, slow or non-existent rate of the internal regradation or excretion of the substance, and that will lead to the water insolubility. Therefore the right answer to this question is option D, liposoluble. Next question here, a lake near a village is suffered with heavy mortality of fishes within a few days. Consider the following reasons for this. We have to analyze the statements here. Lots of urea and phosphate fertilizer were used in the crop in Wind City. That is the right answer, because we saw in the very first question of this part where we spoke about eutrophication, right? Where phosphate detergents, phosphate fertilizers that are used from the agricultural lands, when they are dumped into the water, they cause eutrophication. The main reason why aquatic organisms cannot survive is because they don't get oxygen, and that oxygen, if you see, has to be in dissolved form. When there is eutrophication, you have the dumping of other waste and plants growing over it. All the oxygen that is there in the water will be used by these systems, and the surviving ones which are underneath the water will not have anything to take in, and they will die because they don't have oxygen to breathe in. So the first option is right. The second one, the area is sprayed with DDT by an aircraft, no. The lake water turned green and stinky, that is also the right answer, because when you dump in too much of waste, what happens? The water becomes polluted, it becomes green and stinky, not at all worth to survive in it. Therefore the two right options for this question is 1 and 3, which is option C. Okay, that is the reason why the fishes suffered high mortality in that area, and that too within a few days. Okay, next question here. Which one of the following is not a bioindicator of water pollution? So we have 4 options here. The right answer to this question is stoneflies. So if you see, these stoneflies are what? They are basically insects, and they are not bioindicators. Bioindicators provide a range of technique to assess the impacts of air pollution, or it can be water pollution, from the reactive nitrogen compounds. So the main thing that they use is the nitrogen. These complement physical monitoring of the atmospheric concentration and deposition of risk assessment, which is based on the critical loads approach by providing site-based information on the atmospheric nitrogen concentration. Therefore, the rest, if you see, they are bioindicators, while stonefly is not a bioindicator. Therefore, the right answer to this question is option B. Next question here. Limit of BOD prescribed by the Central Pollution Control Board for the discharge of industrial and municipal wastewaters into natural surface water is dash. Now I'm going to show you an explanation for this. There you have the answer. See, the CPCB has a standard value, and beyond that they call it as polluted. It can be water, it can be air. Now for a pure water, if you see, it is less than 1 ppm, and if you take the same thing for an industrial and municipal waste, it should be less than 10 ppm. But if you look at the same example which is given here, in Yamuna water of Delhi, it is about 1000 ppm it seems. Then see how much it is polluted. Therefore the right answer to this question is option A, less than 10 ppm. So biological oxygen demand is the amount of oxygen that is required to destroy the organic waste by the bacteria. The more the oxygen that is required by the bacteria, it is understood the demand is also increasing. Therefore the right answer to this question is option A. Next question here. Prolonged liberal irrigation of agricultural fields is likely to create a problem of dash. Okay, if you look at this one, you have acidity, aridity, metal toxicity, and salinity. What do you think will be related to this? Water in natural has salts. We all know that, right? The salt will be in varying degrees. Sometimes it might be in high level, sometimes it might be in low level, sometimes it might be in the normal or the moderate level. So that is why they have said varying degrees. Therefore, imagine you're doing excessive irrigation. What will happen? The fields are likely to create a problem which is called as salinity. Okay? So therefore, the excessive irrigation followed by evaporation of the unabsorbed water can lead to salinity, and a major problem will be faced by the fields which is called as water logging. Okay? Once again, it is going to affect the yield, the quality, and it's going to affect the field as well. Okay, therefore the right answer to this question is option C, salinity. Next question here. Which one of the following is not used for the disinfection of drinking water? We all know we use chlorine, chlorinamine. Do we use ozone or phenyl? We use ozone because it's a strong disinfecting agent, but we do not use phenyl. Okay, chlorine, ozone, and chlorinamine are used for disinfection of drinking water, but phenyl is actually hazardous to health, and it cannot be used for disinfection purposes, especially when it comes to a drinking water. Therefore, the right answer to this question is option D. Next question here. More than 70% of the world's fresh water is contained in dash. Okay. See, when you talk about the overall earth, 3/4 of it is covered with water. But how much is fresh water? If you see, it's to a minimal amount. Okay, which contains 97.5% of total water. Its marine water is about 3.5%, which has salt in it, right? And you have 2.5% of fresh water which occurs on land. Most of this water, which is 1.797%, occurs on the frozen ice caps and glaciers. So predominantly when we talk about 70% of the world's fresh water is contained in the polar ice. Okay, rivers and lakes contain about 0.02%, soil to 0.1%, while atmospheric processes or atmosphere possesses about 0.001% of water as in the form of vapor. But predominantly where do you find this fresh water is polar ice, and you see negligible amounts in the rest of the sources. Next question here. In 1984, Bhopal Gas Tragedy took place because methyl isocyanate reacted with dash. See, in Bhopal Gas Tragedy, methyl isocyanate, which is abbreviated as MIC, reacted with water to produce a large amount of heat. So what happens when heat is produced? Pressure will be liberated. When pressure goes uncontrollable, it will obviously burst, right? It was an exothermic reaction due to which the increase in pressure, which led to the uncontrollable action of the safety valve, and therefore it led to the bursting activity of the gas, and that is how the gas got liberated from the system. So in 1984, the Bhopal Gas Tragedy took place because, and it was a very simple thing, but see how much commotion it has created. It led to a big tragedy there. So it reacted with water. What reacted with water? Methyl isocyanate. Okay, next question here. The most common indicator organism that represents polluted water is dash. Okay, we have 4 different organisms here: entamoeba, typhi, E. coli, vibrio, and all that. The main organism that represents the polluted water is E. coli. What is E. coli? It's a bacteria. What is it actually? It's a rod-shaped bacteria. It is a gram-negative bacteria. Okay, and this bacteria, if you see, it is present in the human intestine. Okay, if they are present in water, it indicates that water is polluted, and E. coli is mostly in the form of coliform. A coliform test will be conducted to check the validity or the quality of the water, and thereby it represents the pollution in case if E. coli is present. Okay, therefore the right answer is A. Next question here. So this is how the microscopic view, I have given you a 3D image of how E. coli looks, and the body is blessed with flagella all over the body, where it helps in the motility of the bacteria. Next question here. E. coli or Escherichia coli is used as an indicator organism to determine the pollution of water with dash. As I told, this E. coli is present in the human intestine. So when someone passes feces near the lake or the river, they get mixed with the water. So it's the fecal matter that predominantly which liberates this E. coli from the human intestine. Therefore, E. coli grows in water polluted with sewage and domestic waste, right? Therefore, the right answer to this question is fecal matter. Because when domestic waste and sewage waste is liberated into water, one thing, it is liberated from human intestine. Other than that, the waste, the sewage waste, all that is when it liberated into the river, you have all chances for this microorganism to survive, to grow, and to multiply there. So it's mostly the most contribution or the predominant contribution is from the fecal matter. Okay, next question here. Which one of the following is absent in polluted water? So there is one particular organism which grows only in fresh water. Any idea what is this? Blue-green algae grows on polluted water, no problem. Larva of the stonefly doesn't mind at all. Water hyacinth also grows in polluted water. Hydrilla only grows in freshwater plant. It's a freshwater plant. Therefore, the right answer is option A. Next question here. DDT causes eggshell thinning in birds because it inhibits dash. If you remember, I already explained in part 2 of it, where I told that sometimes the high usage of this DDT will lead to, or which will mislead or will interfere with the calcium metabolism of birds. So what happens is it will inhibit the calcium ATP synthesis, which will actually lead or cause eggshell thinning and also cause premature hatching. Thereby the birds will not survive, and it will it will reduce the population of the birds. Therefore, the right answer to this question is option B, calcium ATPase. It inhibits calcium ATPase work, which is a major part of the calcium metabolism of birds. Okay? So with this, we complete the part 3 of environmental issues. Hope to meet you in the next part of the same chapter. Keep watching and take care.